my goodness. Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Now, it certainly has been a while, but it's always nice to see an old friend. How have you been? It's been so long. We're doing fine over here. The rocks are doing great.
Hey, everybody in the closet.
They sure did. And we also got a new place over here too. Yeah, everything's going pretty good for me. And what was that? How did the Battle of Light and Dark go? Come on, man. There's no way you don't remember that. It was like 4 years ago. You gotta catch up, man. Anyways, now that we're all settled into this new place, I'm sure I know what you're here for. I mean, I can give you one later if you want. But no, you're here to listen to me talk about cartoons and other miscellaneous topics. I mean, it has been 4 years, so I guess we got a lot to catch up on, huh? So, what should we start out with? Let's talk about, let's talk about that.
So, it's been a while, huh? Thanks for coming back. Now, 4 years ago on this channel, I made a review on the first season of Aggretsuko. To save you the trouble of looking back at my really bad old videos, I'll just recap for you. Essentially, I loved it. At the beginning of the series, Retsuko, a red panda in her mid-20s with a rageful amount of anger management issues, or I guess really good anger management skills since she channels it through karaoke, is stuck in an office job that makes her miserable. Her sexist boss is demeaning, her coworkers are stuck-up snobs, and she only longs to escape from the hell that is work. Her solution? To escape through marriage. Over the course of the season, she makes friends with her powerful coworkers, Washimi and Gori. She tells off her boss while drunk, and even decides that she doesn't want to just escape work through a relationship after getting with a guy that, to be honest, is way below her pay grade. I mean, come on, girl. Meanwhile, at the same time, this guy named Haida is good friends with her, but has had a bit of a crush on her for a few years now. He shoots his shot, but is rejected in this Christmas special, which is also really cute. Overall, the first season of Aggretsuko was short and sweet, and I loved it so much back then that I gave it a 10 out of 10. Nowadays, I'd probably give it something akin to like an 8 out of 10, but to be fair, I was 16 and autistic, so to me, things were either perfect or garbage. The second season upped the stakes a little, with the first half dealing with this guy named Anai, an obnoxiously toxic new coworker that learns not to be a little shit a few episodes in, and the latter half dealing with a new love interest for Retsuko, Tadano, a millionaire who fumbles the bag with Retsuko because he doesn't believe in marriage, despite marriage being her whole thing. She also decides that she still wants to work, so that's nice. Overall, Season 2 to me was a massive improvement over the first, and while the stakes were upped a little, it wasn't too crazy that it wasn't grounded in reality. It still had that realistic feeling, which was nice. Season 3, once again, rides that grounded line a bit more, with the main conflict being Retsuko being forced into a pop group called the OTM Girls, which their music is so good and it's on Spotify, you should check it out, in order to repay damages to the manager's car after crashing into it. Meanwhile, Haida is starting to get over Retsuko, and starts meeting with this nice dog lady. Retsuko's rage becomes public, and it's made out to be a huge deal, and she even enjoys being a pop star. It seems like things are gearing towards the end, with Retsuko even quitting her job to become a pop star when... Oh, okay, so, a stalker got really obsessed with her and almost killed her. Luckily, Haida stepped in to save her, blowing any chance he had with this dog lady. Seriously, she did nothing wrong. And realizing that he only wants Retsuko. However, Retsuko is traumatized by the events and quits her job and moves home. But Haida, after getting confidence from a dating app thing that matches them together, drags her from home and tells her to suck it up and come back to work. And I'm sure the writers thought it sounded better on paper, too.
Overall, despite the controversial ending Season 3 had, I honestly thought this would have been a great point for the show to end, had some things been changed. It could have been a nice bookend with Retsuko getting to quit her job finally, and her and Haida getting together in a normal way, not whatever that was. Plus, by this point, it was starting to lose the grounded in reality charm that the original 2 seasons had. So, with that in mind, here probably would have been the better place to end. And in a perfect world, it did. In a perfect world, it did.
So, Aggretsuko actually keeps going. for 2 more seasons. I mean, season 3 wasn't bad at all in the slightest. In fact, it was still really good. And after that cliffhanger, the will they won't they of Retsuko and Haida was on fire. Do Haida and Retsuko actually get together? It seemed Retsuko finally likes Haida too, and oh no. The show starts to shift focus from Retsuko as the main character to Haida. And the first 6 episodes of this 10-episode season is spent wasting time with Haida not being able to take a hint and ask her out, only for her to eventually get tired of waiting and be like, let's remain friends? Oh no. The company gets a new CEO and he's actually evil. Oh. He wants to use Haida because he made a good code that helped his team out, and he makes him the boss and uses him to fake good numbers for the company. So Retsuko and Co. have to expose this conspiracy. Whoa. Retsuko and Haida do get together, but they appear so toxic that it all culminates in a slap, and then he cries like a baby. Oh. And the season ends with Haida quitting, with it being ambiguous if they're still together. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's season 4 of Aggretsuko. Let's go! In all seriousness, it isn't bad, per se. The conversation online seems to make this season out to be the worst of the show, but trust me, I disagree with that statement. This is the first season to have an active antagonist, which was actually a nice change of pace. But man, was it so hard to watch, especially in that first half where Haida was just being an oblivious dumbass. They dragged that will they won't they stuff for way too long. Plus, as I said, they're starting to shift towards him being the main character of the show, which is honestly not a fun change. And as I feared ending season 3, the show completely lost the original charm it had, which was being grounded in reality and being super relatable to the average consumer. It just feels like an entirely different show, with the drama being so nonsensical.
If I were to describe how season 4 felt, it would be random. And you can see a bit of this in season 3 as well. And what I mean by that is they're starting to move away from the groundedness the first 2 seasons had, and they're starting to make Retsuko more than just an ordinary character. Rather than being a character that anyone can find themselves in, like with having a shitty boss and having anger issues that is so relatable, Retsuko has started to shift towards being a character that finds herself in situations that the average person would never find themselves in, like being an underground pop star and stopping a conspiracy at a multi-million-dollar company. The drama and the conflict in the show just started to feel so random, like I said. And while it's not a bad change per se, it's definitely a departure from what made the first 2 to 3 seasons so great. But with that said, we can finally get into the meat of our discussion, the final season of Aggretsuko.
Now, keep in mind that I am writing this script with the expectation that those watching have already seen the show. If you haven't and you've made it this far, then what's wrong with you? Or maybe you're here because you missed me. That being said, I am writing the script immediately after watching the final season in one sitting. And let me just say, oh boy, okay. So my first thought when finishing the final episode of Aggretsuko was, 1, that was not good. 2, that was bad. And 3, I haven't felt this way about a show's ending since Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And that's a whole other can of worms. So going into season 5, it is very clear that this is a very different show. The show has essentially shifted entirely to being about Haida, who in seasons 1 and 2 was a lovable dork who just had a little work crush. He had his badass moments where he benefited Retsuko, and I think everyone universally wanted him to win in the end and get his happy ending with her. However, after season 3 and especially season 4, discussion online shifted mostly towards the negative with this character. He turned into some kind of oblivious dumbass who blows every shot with any good thing that happens to him. And when he finally does get with Retsuko, he's kind of an asshole to her, lacking proper communication skills for a relationship and not really putting in the work. So going into season 5 and finding out that it centers on him already put a sour taste in my mouth. But let's actually see what this season has in store. So, Haida is unemployed! After committing tax fraud with Mr. Evil corporate guy, he decided to leave the company and has been in a rut ever since, getting addicted to Genshin Impact and spending thousands of dollars on the game while unemployed. He and Retsuko are actually still together, surprisingly, and she's pushing for him to get a new job and eventually drops the hammer on him until he can get a job. Because it's apparently been months since he quit, she won't see him. However, he gets evicted by his asshole brother and father who we've never seen before and has 1 month to move out. Now, I don't know if the timeline in this part of the show was lost in translation or was just not made clear, but rather than using that 1 month he was given to find a part-time job and get his income back and then find an apartment, the next day Haida moves out and lives on the street. Is he stupid? So, Haida decides to live at an internet cafe where he meets his Genshin Impact friend that encouraged him to spend all of his money on Fire Emblem Heroes PNGs and is now officially homeless. He picks up shifts as a construction worker, but only makes less than $100 per shift. He continues to be on the street with no support and no real job and no food. And why doesn't he tell Retsuko about this? Why is he ignoring her calls and texts? Why is he lying to her? Is he stupid? Yeah, so he doesn't tell his girlfriend that he is homeless and ghosts her for a while. Obviously, she forms a search party and brings the bastard home. We're now 3 episodes in, and Retsuko sets Haida up at her place, and they officially move in together. Now, I'm gonna take a quick detour to actually praise one aspect of this season, and that is the portrayal of Retsuko and Haida's relationship. At least after the first 3 episodes. It is much better than how the last 2 seasons try to portray it, and I can finally see the vision that the show has with these characters. Rather than being a knight in shining armor like Retsuko initially pined for in the first 2 seasons, and rather than the girl of his dreams that Haida pined for, they got each other. They bite back at each other and they get on each other's nerves sometimes, but they also care for one another and clearly love each other. This is the most normal relationship I've seen on television, not a romanticized version of a couple or an eternal honeymoon phase that are normally portrayed in fiction. Now, I am absolutely aware that I am contradicting myself here, after just going on about how stupid Haida is in this relationship. And no, don't worry, the beginning of their relationship is still there. But once they move in with each other and once the show moves past that, oh my god, it works so well. It is a relationship that is flawed, but still a relationship that has both characters clearly care and love one another and want to support the other. At least after the first 3 or 4 episodes of the season. Anyways, after the homeless arc, Haida goes on a job hunt, but apparently really sucks at finding a job. Why don't you ask your friend the CEO if he's hiring? He clearly likes you and would absolutely do it as a favor to Retsuko and you. They even meet up this season to talk about how he seriously wants to be a coder and a designer. And Tadano is like, wow, this is really good. You could seriously be a coder. And then it just goes nowhere. Eventually, Haida gives up on finding an accounting job and gets a job at a grocery store. You mean to tell me you didn't even consider getting a non-career job to at least get some income? Remember Haida's asshole brother and father that evicted him and made him homeless at the beginning of the season? Now they're mad that he was homeless and unemployed, so they make him travel to their home to tell him that he's an embarrassment and to not fuck up while the election is going on. There's an election going on, by the way, because apparently Haida's father is on the fucking national diet, the government, and his brother is running for office because his father is too old? That came out of nowhere. And speaking of coming out of nowhere, meet Glub Shido. So this red bat thing showed up at an OTM Girls concert wanting Retsuko's information. Obviously seems like a stalker. OTM Girls take the guy out, one of the best groups in the show. However, he stalks Retsuko anyway, which probably caused numerous PTSD-related panic attacks for the poor girl. And it turns out he wants her to also run for the government. It turns out he's part of the rage party and wants her to win a seat on the House of Representatives because she posted videos of herself raging online that one time in order to earn some money. He wants Aggretsuko, who has no political experience whatsoever and in-universe is a D-list celebrity at best thanks to her time in the OTM Girls, to run for office. Aggretsuko, a random lady who works an office job that Glub Shido has never met, running for the House of Representatives. Yeah, okay. So obviously Aggretsuko keeps refusing Glub Shido over here because she's a normal person who has no interest, let alone experience in politics. And I can't believe this season somehow made me take back a compliment in less than a minute because, holy shit, the OTM Girls group agree with him? They think she should run for office because it would look good for them? And what the fuck, dude? Why would you say that? Eventually, she is forced to cave in because she is kidnapped by the OTM Girls, literally abducted in the streets, taken to a crowded concert, thrown on stage, and forced to say yes because they had already announced her campaign to the fans. And then all of a sudden, Haida also wants her to run because his brother wants her to drop out of the race or something because he thinks Haida is a joke or whatever, and also because he wants his gamer friend to try to be normal. Even in this one arc Aggretsuko gets in the final season of her own show, it still somehow becomes about Haida. So if you don't think the show jumped the shark in season 4, well, there's definitely no turning back now. Remember that little talk we had about the show getting random? This takes the cake of randomness, and the show has lost all appeal when it comes to being a relatable, grounded slice of life story. How did we go from
This woman in her mid-20s is having a bit of an identity crisis because she has worked the same job for 5 years and just wants a way out, and she vents her frustrations into karaoke because she's a yes girl and can't say no,
to she's running for president?
Now, before we discuss the series finale of the show, let's talk about the runtime it had. In the first 4 seasons, the episodes averaged out at about 15 minutes, with the season finales usually getting an extra couple minutes to wrap things up. However, in season 5, the episodes averaged at around 20 minutes, and the series finale is double that at almost 40 minutes, making it the longest Aggretsuko episode, even longer than the Christmas special. So you would think they have plenty of time to work with to wrap everything up. So how did they fuck it up?
So, the series finale of Aggretsuko focuses entirely on the election and Aggretsuko running for office, a plot point that came out of nowhere in the last 3 episodes, and an action that the main character clearly did not want to do, nor feel comfortable doing for 2 of those episodes. The rage party feels so random, and it's just a kick in the face to those who like the show for its realism and groundedness. Obviously, realism is in quotation marks considering, well, as a season finale, it's rushed as hell. Haida gets run over by a truck, and it seems like it's gonna be this big dramatic moment, but it gets shrugged off and never brought up again in 2 minutes. The show randomly gives the asshole brother a redemption in the end, despite him at no point been seen having a shred of sympathy or humanity in his bones all season. Aggretsuko and the OTM Girls have one more big song talking about how shitty the common person's life is and how they need to tear down institutions. And just when it seems like everything this season has built up is gonna click, the unemployment arc and how hard it is at the bottom, how the world is a prison and how the system is extremely flawed and stuck in the past, and that the future is the change we need. None of it fucking matters because she loses the election anyways. The bad guy wins and everyone is okay with that. What? The whole thing just comes off as not thought out whatsoever. Like I said, the season spends so much time dedicated to showing how shitty the bottom is. Aggretsuko's entire campaign is about being vocal about how shitty the lives of all the common folk actually are. And for her to lose is not a good message at all. All this tells us is that the bad people in power will always win. And yeah, that is how it goes in the real world, but you choose now to play into realism again? You abandoned ship when you had this red panda run for office. Hell, you abandoned ship when you had her be a pop star back in season 3. And Haida and his family all laughing together at the rally made no sense. You're telling me Haida, who was evicted by his father, blackmailed by his brother, and had his girlfriend directly called a wrench, Is it wrench or winch? I think it's winch. And had his girlfriend directly called a winch by both, and his family, who he was ready to cut ties with and also tried to have him killed, were both just ready to laugh it up after asshole brother brought up a no old people act? What? And yes, that's seriously how this whole thing ends. Asshole brother wins the election by a landslide because he said in passing that he wants to pass a bill that prevents people from over the age of 65 from participating in office, which, to be fair, we kind of need that in the real world, but that doesn't do anything to wrap this storyline up. What does that do to take down any antagonist? Who does this affect? The asshole dad? He literally already couldn't run for office, dude. That's why you're here. So yeah, as a season finale, it kind of blows. But Meli, I hear you say.
What?
How was this episode as a series finale? Well, let me tell ya. As a series finale, it's even worse. You know how I said this is the longest episode in the series? How surprised would you be if I told you not a single character from the first 4 seasons play a major role in the double-length series finale, outside of director Ton, who cheers Retsuko up for like a minute, which, that one is actually really sweet. Seriously, Ton becoming more and more human throughout the series is like my favorite arc ever. Okay, how about this? What if I told you that Glum Shido, that red bat thing that made its debut 3 episodes ago, has more screen time than Finneco in the finale? The comedic heart and soul of the show, my profile picture on Netflix, in the series finale. In fact, nearly every side character in the show had nothing to do the entire season. Most of them just amounted to short cameos. It made the show lose a lot of its charm with 90% of the cast being gone. In fact, I don't think we see them while they're working in the office once. Or how about this? The fact that Haida and Retsuko fucking get married, but it's only shown in a 10-second montage after Haida gets randomly run over by a truck. The culmination of both of these characters' motivations from the beginning of the series is only shown for 10 seconds randomly in the middle of the episode and is not brought up again? Huh? And as stated, no side characters get any love. Not Tadano, not Washimi or Gori, not Finneco, or any of the other office characters. Nothing. The series ends with this weird speech about rage and a callback to the first episode, which is just basic for a series finale. Every finale calls back to its first episode. You know how I said that I haven't felt this way about a show's ending since Star vs. the Forces of Evil? Well, for those of you who are blessed enough to not been around when that show was airing, let me explain. So back in the day, Star was crowned as one of the greatest story-driven cartoons of the 2010s, right next to Gravity Falls, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, all of them. Then it aired its final season, which was a huge departure from what made the show good in the first place. Focusing on shipping instead of a good story, turning a one-off side villain from season 2 into the main antagonist for the racist metaphor story arc, and bastardizing every character to the point where they're all unlikable. The end of the series left a bad taste in the mouths of millions, so much so that overnight, the series went from being regarded as one of the greatest story-driven shows of all time to being one of the worst. They say that even with a 5-star gourmet meal, if the last bite is mold, it'll sour the whole experience. With that being said, is it that way for Aggretsuko? You can have whatever opinion you want in that regard, but in my mind, well, no. The first 3 seasons of Aggretsuko are still great in my opinion, and overall it is still a wonderful, mature show that I would still recommend to anyone. Those last 2 seasons though, woof. Aggretsuko for me is a prime example of a good thing overstaying its welcome, and is a show that definitely should have wrapped itself up sooner rather than later. That being said, the last 2 seasons aren't even the worst things I've seen. Season 4, while yes it has loads of problems, was still really fun, and while the last season to me was bad, there's just no denying that, it still had some good, even great moments sprinkled in there. Obviously, it was still bad enough to pull me back from the depths of YouTube hell, but it absolutely is not the worst thing in the world. And even in the context of Star, that shit is still way worse!
But hey, at the end of the day, there's always those first 3 seasons right there for you to enjoy. Now, I think I've rambled on long enough. I think I'm gonna go ahead and crawl back into the YouTube depths, and I'll wake up and say another 4 years? Or sooner, if there's something for me I could talk about. Now, no matter when I return, I just want to say, it's good to be back. And of course, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, take care.